Mr. Terrific #3, written by Eric Wallace, art by Scott Clark. Last left off with Mr. Terrific being approached by Brainstorm, his new villain, I guess. And Brainstorm possessed all the minds of all the people around him and convinced them that Mr. Terrific is some sort of communist. Sure. This issue picks up with a brief little hospital thing that just basically explains to the reader that a whole bunch of people in LA have all been turned by this Brainstorm guy. The real story picks up back with Mr. Terrific, and he's being surrounded by these people who are like, oh, actual quote here, he wants to take away our credit cards. I'll betcha he's a tree hugger too. Cool. So Mr. Terrific deals with this by literally not dealing with this. He just flies up on his T-spheres, and Brainstorm's like, oh, you're retreating already. I can't say I blame you, but I will feed off your mind one way or another. And Mr. Terrific's like, nah. And he swoops in and just starts beating the crap out of Brainstorm. He's like, yeah, you got the mental stuff, but I'm the one who works out. Like, I'm going to just fight you. So reverse whatever you're doing on these people, and then I turn you over to the authorities. And Brainstorm's like, well, maybe, just maybe, I wanted you to fight me so you get closer so I could do this. And he unleashes some tentacles on Mr. Terrific in order to zap his mind because the Wi-Fi doesn't work, so he had to use an Ethernet cable. Sure. I think they literally make that comparison. So Mr. Terrific, he's like, all right, well, he's burning out my mind. I got just a couple seconds. So he uses his T-spheres to blast Brainstorm. I don't know why I keep forgetting that guy's name. It's because it's so dull. With a pure acoustic white noise. So he's like, all right, that should give me a second. It didn't, but Brainstorm luckily just gets up and starts monologuing about his origin story. He was a dude named Dominic Lance who was studying AI, specifically how it could interface with humans and be able to download smart people's intelligence into computers to preserve them. But, I mean, he succeeded, but then something happened, and now he's Brainstorm, where he has to feed off of other people's intelligences, and wouldn't you know it, timer's done, and he's ready. And he has to let people's intelligence ripen. So like the whole reason people have been going psychotic is because he makes them super smart. Psychosis is just a side effect of it, and then once they're smart for a while, their brains are juicier or something. Sure. So anyway, all of LA is now ripe and ready to be harvested, so they're all getting their brains drained by Brainstorm, and Mr. Terrific's like, okay, I can't do what I did to protect me on everybody in LA, so I'm gonna have to think of something else. And he pulls out some techno magic, and he gets all of his T-spheres to come out and surround Brainstorm, and as explained in a later page, he forced all of the mental energy into him instantaneously, which basically caused, as Mr. Terrific put it, mental indigestion. And he explodes, and everybody gets their brains back. So Brainstorm's laying there on the ground, and he's like, cool, you beat me. That's fair, you beat me. By the way, I know your real name, because I tasted a bit of your brain too when I was hooked into you. Your real name's Michael Holt. And by the way, I solved the truth about your wife. And the truth about his wife is that his wife died in a car accident. That much was already known. But she died in the fact that an advanced driving system, kind of like a Tesla thing, was turned on or went faulty in her car, and that caused her to crash. And the only reason that it went faulty was because that was the night that Brainstorm first became Brainstorm, it was his first feeding session, and it managed to affect a bunch of AIs that were on that level of self-driving, so low-level AIs. So Brainstorm is the reason that Mr. Terrific's wife is dead. I hate this development, but I digress. Mr. Terrific also hates this development. He starts beating the crap out of him, pretty much about to kill him. A crowd is gathered, and they've all pulled out their cell phones, but Mr. Terrific makes the point of no, nobody can record me because I've got some low-level EMP thing going on around me. But still, they'll know this, and I'll know this, and I shouldn't have sunk to this level. Is this really who I am? Just this rage. So he pulls out a T-sphere that like absorbs Brainstorm's head and makes him forget that he knew, I guess. One of the cops, I think, shows up and was like, hey, so is this the guy who did the stuff? And Mr. Terrific just explains the entire plot to the cop, and he's like, yeah, he was the maniac who's responsible. Here's his real name. Here's the shit he did. Anyway, yeah, he's responsible for everything. And then we see this kid who, like, for the past 3 issues has been totally all in on Mr. Terrific. He's like, you're the coolest, Mr. Terrific. And we see him walk up to Mr. Terrific after seeing him nearly beat Brainstorm to death. And he has these fake fair play tattoos on his arms. And he looks at Mr. Terrific with a tear in his eye. And he starts wiping off the tattoo in front of Mr. Terrific. And then walks away. And Mr. Terrific's like, all right, well, it's a few hours later. He's like, all right, I'm taking an extended break from my business. Alika, you're in charge of things. Donald, don't be a dick. And then he just disappears, and we get a brief little conversation between Alika and Donald where Donald's like, why don't you just take over as CEO permanently so we can actually have a boss who's, around. And Alika's like, all right, what are you getting out of this, Donald? And Donald in his head is like, I'm getting you just don't know it yet. Whatever. Then Mr. Terrific, he plans to go to like a different dimension, or I think the 9th dimension, and he's about to walk his way in there when he's met by this voice that I think was introduced like in the middle of issue 2, and he's like, oh, Skyrider, help us, we're some freaky looking bug aliens and you're the only one who can save us from the Krill. And that's where the issue ends. I really, really don't like that Brainstorm is the reason that the wife is dead. Like, I don't know. I think for me personally, I like it when it's just a normal person, when someone who, isn't from Krypton or whatever, isn't from whatever. I really like it when the hero's origin story, the tragedy moment that like set them down the path, is something that like just is, it's something. It's the random mugger in the alley sort of moment. It's not, no, it's actually the fault of this supervillain and the machinations of, shut up. Stop. Just make it the thing that they couldn't control. That's it. That's all it ever had to be. But no, does he now feel less guilt because he beat the ever-loving crap out of his wife's murderer, technically? Does he feel worse because he did that? I don't know, but like, it shouldn't have been a thing. I don't know. It's good story potential. They responded to it well. I really liked the part where he loses control for a second afterwards. But I don't like the idea that they did it in the first place. Art is fine. It's actually significantly better than the last couple issues. I don't know what they're doing differently, but it's just better. Writing, I don't have that much of an issue with. Like I said, it's just that one decision that really just soured it for me. Also, Donald. Screw Donald. I don't care about that. And then this last page thing of like, oh no, we're already starting the next plot. Like, okay, I get aliens, sure, whatever. It's a 6. It's fine. It's just got a lot of issues working against it, and I'm willing to give it a little benefit of the doubt moving forward, but it's an uphill battle, I will tell you that much.